Hello, everyone, and welcome to TGP2. It is Monaco and Azerbaijan here tonight. So, this is going to be a very good few races. So, let's go through our championship order so far. Lewis Craig takes the championship lead from CJH. After Lewis, obviously, he won. What track was it? It was. Give me a minute. I'll find out. Was it Spain? I think it might have been Spain. It was indeed Spain. He won in Spain, which obviously gave him the advantage. Before then, Canada. He might have not had the greatest race there, but ended up. I think it was like 7th or 8th. But Jess won the Canadian Grand Prix, and she is currently 3rd place in the driver standings. Deck in 4th with Dan Morris 5th, obviously missing out last week. Jake Warrior 6th, Bazza 7th, Chris Johnson 8th, Ryan Berry 9th, Luca, who isn't racing tonight, in 10th, Daniel Price 11th, Jack Craig 12th, Matty C 13th, Wet Lemons 14th, and Joseph Sayer 15th. In the constructors, Red Bull are doing probably the most out of all the teams. Jess and Lewis being a really good team, obviously winning the last 2 races. They're in the lead. Haas in 2nd place with CJ and Bazza. Aston Martin 3rd. Obviously the team with Ryan Berry and Deck. Alpine 4th, McLaren 5th, Ferrari 6th, Ricard 7th, Mercedes 8th, Sauber 9th, and Williams 10th. 10th, yeah. So this is your calendar, real quick. Obviously Lewis and Jess won last week's race. Monaco. We're going to go straight into this. So, it is the evening time here in Monaco, which we love to see, and it is Dark Shadow who is going to be our first car on circuit. Obviously, Kaya didn't race last week, but is racing tonight, so he will be hoping for a good result tonight to get the missing week's points back. 15 drivers. We've got Stereogram, who has DNF'd already. I'm going to presume that is maybe Qualipan. That's my guess. Give me 1 second. I've been extremely unprepared. But yeah, Dark Shadow. Hopefully, gonna get some good points here. Monaco obviously probably isn't his strongest circuit. I don't think it's anyone's strongest circuit, if you ask me. I'm hearing heavy rain for the race. This will be interesting with these guys. But let's watch on board with Kaya. Goes into turn 1. Pretty neat. As he goes up the hill into turn 2, 3, and 4. Into turn 5. Sweep the car left. Decent lines there. And then into turn 6. You're meant to get a bit closer to the curb there, but into turn 7. Get on the throttle as early as you can before braking late into turn 8 into the hairpin, bit late there, into 9. Decent so far from Kaya here, it's not been terrible. How do I take this off? Here we go. And then into this bit, so easy to corner cut. Oh, Kaya trying to make sure he doesn't corner cut, but went way too deep. And then into the swimming pool section, left, right, and then get close to that wall there. Kaya's not done too bad here, the Mercedes driver, which is good for him. go for the final corner, and Kaya, a little bit of a slide, but has set himself a benchmark of a 1:13.9. Who else have we got? Who's coming up the line now? Beck. A 10.9, a good lap from the Aston Martin driver before Lewis Craig, a 10.4. It is now starting to get a little bit closer. Next up, the other Aston Martin of Ryan Berry. He's starting his lap, never mind. Where Lemons is on a lap, but let's see what he can do. Looks like a decent lap here, and it goes pole position, a 19.7, that's 6/10 quicker. CJ goes behind him at 9.8, a 10th off Wet Lemons. That's a really solid lap from Wet Lemons there. We've got a Mercedes of Chris Johnson, a Mercedes Ferrari of Chris Johnson, 12.7, that's set on the mediums, so not really sure what this tactic is here from Chris Johnson, but we'll go with the flow, I guess. Let's watch on board with last week's winner, last race winners, Jess, who drove a brilliant race last week. Just getting the track map up because I realised I probably was really off in terms of the lap. I felt like I was not miscounting it. So anyway, Jess currently third in the standings. Really good start to the season for her, and I'm sure she'll want that to continue as she goes through the final corner. Turn 19 comes across the line. It is a 1:10.3, puts her into third place ahead of her teammate Lewis Craig. Jess is really putting her foot down this season as Daniel comes across the line to P6. What about Dan Morris, driver who was leading the championship into week 2 until obviously he didn't turn up, so he's got a bit of time and points to make up. It goes into turn 7 and turn 8. So yeah, he will be wanting to bounce back after obviously not starting the last 2 races, and will hopefully maybe be able to get himself into title fight. There's a yellow flag. I thought that was a red flag, then the map went red. Dan Morris invalidating. He gives the car a wiggle. He is not impressed with himself. Meanwhile, CJ on a lap. Now, the Haas driver wasn't very happy when I believe he got penalised with an incident with Lewis, I think it was, which put him down the order. But he'll be looking forward to bouncing back, and he does bounce back. Look at that, a 9.2, 6/10 improvement from the Haas driver. Next up, Chris Johnson, who has invalidated, but he's going to finish his lap anyway. So Jack Craig also starting his lap, so we'll keep an eye on him. What about Bazza? He's also... Okay, everyone's on an out lap by the looks of it. Not Deck though. I believe he is on a lap. Now, this will be interesting. It's not going to be interesting because he's not pushing. Actually, ran out of fuel. So, Chris Johnson not on a lap. Is he on a lap? No, he can't be. Ryan Berry is on a lap. Let's see what the Aston Martin driver can do. His teammate is ahead of him, who's run out of fuel. But that won't stop Ryan as he comes towards the final 2 corners. That front wing damage I see there. There is his front left end plate has gone off, but that won't matter too much, I'm sure. It is a 1:13.1. He lost time, unfortunately for him. CJ, these guys are doing like back-to-back laps here, which I'm finding quite interesting. Let's watch on board of Lewis Craig. This will be interesting. Into turn 1. Don't corner cut too much into turn 1. He takes it nice and cautiously. Burns the overtake up into turn 2 and 3. Clip the apex on the left. Try and get as close as you can to the inside wall. Nicely done from Lewis. It is a 18.5 first sector. 48 milliseconds of his personal best. Into the hairpin he goes. Very hard to do in the last few games, including this game, but he nails it pretty much. Into turn 8. Get a good exit. He does so. as we go under the tunnel. And then you get blinded normally, but because it's evening, you're not getting blinded. Into turn 10 and 11. Did he clip the wall there a bit? I think he did, but it's not going to matter. He's carrying on. Into turn 12, you flick the car into the corner. He brushes the wall a little bit. Only 0.014 milliseconds up on his lap. It's been quite a scruffy lap. It doesn't look that scruffy, but it does seem to be a quite scruffy lap. From Lewis here, as he comes through the final corner, gets a little bit of a wiggle. He comes across the line. It is a 10.0, 4/10 improvement in the end. So again, 4/10 in the final sector puts him up to P3. But that is not going to be pole position for now. It's Wet Lemons facing the wrong way. Thankfully, no cars on the scene to potentially get blocked up. Like, I think it was Sainz and Perez ended up like crashing into each other. Let's watch on board with Jess then. She goes into turn 8. Nicely done from the Red Bull driver. There's the EOS under the tunnel. Into turn 10. Yeah, pretty neat. I tell you what, she has picked up form, and it's very much showing here. She is driving like the champion. Here we go. Sector 2, purple. Can she finish the lap though? As Jack Pearson unfortunately has his mic unmuted, which doesn't help. Jess goes up to third, a 19.9. How do I mute him? But we currently can hear his conversation. Now Darky got pole position. Pole position. I'm going to start a party because this is going to get very irritating. My apologies. This stops me being able to hear him. Right, anyway, Darky invalidated anyway, doesn't really matter. Let's not lose our head this time. Darky obviously lost his head last time out, and unfortunately, loss of the head ended up being what cost him what could have been good points. As that is a McLaren facing the wrong way. That is Darky talking about the devil. Badza then, he's starting his lap. I presume so anyway. As he goes up the hill, does the Hassman. He's got a McLaren of Jake Warrior behind him. Another driver who really impressed Jake Warrior. Went under the radar, I feel like, last week. And someone to keep an eye out. And Baz are 6/10 down. Let's watch on board with Jake then. To see what he can do. Got 6 minutes left in the session. There is another yellow flag. I think that's an Alpine. No, it's not. I don't know what's going on. What's going on here? Dark Shadow has hit the barrier. Unfortunate. Anyway, let's not pay attention to him. Let's pay attention to Jake. Baz has gone off circuit. That's his lap gone. And so is Jake, who has invalidated again. So that is another invalidation. These guys, they're cracking under the pressure, knowing that it's going to be hard rainfall. And I tell you what, turn 1 is going to be chaos. Chris Johnson, is he on a lap? He's 2 seconds down. I don't think so. I think Jack Craig might be on a lap. Let's watch on board with the Scotsman. His teammate currently 4th place. As Dark Shadow has retired from the session, so that is his quali over. Let's see what Jack can do then. Clips the wall a little bit there, but it was only the rears. Won't affect him too much. 37 milliseconds down on his personal best. I have a feeling these guys gain all their time into the final sector because I'm seeing these guys very close to their personal best, but I tell you what, Jack won't be improving as he drifts into the pit lane. Good save as Chris Johnson back into the pit lane. That's him over. Let's watch on board with Lewis Craig then. A 10th up and apparently to the game, purple sector 1. And you know what? I believe it. I do. As he goes through the tunnel and then back out of it into turn 10 and 11. Lewis obviously didn't have the best race in Canada, won in Spain though, so mixed feelings about last week. As he goes into turn 12 and then spin full section of 13 and 14 before flying through 15, flip the steering into 16, and then a little turn of the wheel into turn 18, a little bit deep. I tell you what, you really held the brake on there properly. Into the straight, this is looking like a very solid lap from Lewis, but is it enough for pole? No, it's not. Still 4/10 off CJ's lap. I tell you what, CJ has pulled a mega lap out of the bag so far as he's on his lap as he goes through turn 8. And I tell you what, this is going to be an interesting finish to this race, qualifying. CJ absolutely dominating quali, but that's not going to dominate it. Corner cutting through turn 11, and that is his quali run done. That doesn't mean qualifying's over for him. Wet Lemons now, he has impressed so far. 88 milliseconds into sector 1, into the hairpin. So apparently purple sector 1. I don't know how much we believe that. As we go through the tunnel once again. Pat Pearson's saying, I joined late, can I actually qualify? I presume you can. Wet Lemons doing a decent lap so far. Into turn 12. It's 4/10 improvement. I tell you what, this could be potential for pole position here. We've got 3 minutes left in the session, so we could do, if he's got enough fuel, 2 more laps. As he comes into the final corner, he opens that DRS wide. What is it going to be for the Mercedes driver? It's pole position, 9.001, almost a 9 flat. That's a quite horrible number to look at when in reality. CJ though, 10th up on his personal best. He's pushing. That invalidation has not stopped him, as that is an Aston Martin flying right behind CJ there. I hope that didn't put him off. 1/10 up on his second sector, purple, according to the game, as you go through turn 18 and 19, the final corner. Don't mess this up. I tell you what, it's looking good for CJH as he comes across the line. It's not enough. He is 20 milliseconds down, and I tell you what, that's gonna hurt. You can still do another lap, I think, as Wet Lemon's pushing, but I don't think that's gonna matter. Deck, apparently he's 2 seconds down. He's not burning EORes. Bazza has also gone down in this time. Daniel's down in this time. So we'll let Wet Lemons pit. I have a feeling he's pushing to pit, but he's running out of time. He's not. He's going to start another lap. I don't know what the strategy here is, but it's looking good for these guys. They're doing things I wouldn't think could do. There is a McLaren's front wing who's gone off. I have a feeling Wet Lemons is not pushing this lap. That looks quite slow. 2 seconds down, yeah. CJ, he needs to make this lap count. His final run if he decides to do another lap, and that is him into the pits. That is qualifying over for CJH. Deck, for the moment, not too far off pole position, 41 milliseconds. Wet Lemons obviously not on a lap, so it is between Deck, Jess, and Lewis. Let's watch on board with Deck though, who is the main man on the lap at the moment. As he goes through the tunnel and back out of it. Into 10, 10, and then 11. Clip the apex. Beautifully done there by Deck. That was spot on with the throttle and the exit. But will it be enough? Oh, he slides into the swimming pool section. He's gone all out of shape, and that is qualifying over for Deck. Acorn. That is it over for him. Now it's the 2 Red Bulls. Jess is invalidated. That is qualifying over now. It is between Wet Lemons and Lewis. Wet Lemons starting another lap, but will it be enough? We'll find out. Lewis then through the tunnel. It's looking decent so far, but it's all about this exit as well. Can he do it? Bit slow, but it's all good. Oh, he got very close to the barrier on the inside, but he kept his wheel off the barrier, and he is 1 millisecond down on his personal best. He's going to have to make this final sector, absolutely obliterate it, do what Max Verstappen did, and he can get pole position. Here we go into the final corner. Pretty neat from Lewis, but will it be enough for pole position? He comes across the line. It won't be. A 9.3 puts him third, and third only. Jess cannot improve on her lap. Dan Morris, I feel like we've forgotten about him. We'll keep an eye on him. As Jack Pearson across the line doesn't set a lap time. Wet Lemons, I forgot he's on another lap. He's 3/10 up on his own lap here as he opens the DRS wide. Surely, is it going to be pole position for Wet Lemons? It is an 8.7. Surely no one's going to be able to beat that. Dan Morris is invalidated. Chris Johnson's on a lap, only a 10th up. Jake Warrior's invalidated. Darky has also gone off. I guess we could say Chris Johnson, but we'll see. Here we go into the final two corners. He is going for it, but I don't think it's going to be enough for pole position. He opens this DRS wide. It will not be pole position for Chris. Where will it put him? Put him 5th place. But it is Wet Lemons on pole position for the Mercedes driver. And that is a very, very impressive lap from Wet Lemons. So, wow. That is very impressive from the Mercedes driver, and what has been a very exciting qualifying session so far. I'm going to have a little sip of my drink. So, Wet Lemons takes pole position by 2/10 from CJ, and then it's 6/10 to Lewis Craig. Lewis Craig in 3rd, just for 1.2 seconds of pole position in 4th place. That shows how crazy that lap is. Chris Johnson 5th, only just missing out from 4th by 80 milliseconds. Deck P6, Dan Morris P7, Jake 8th, Bazza 9th, Jack Craig 10th, Brian Berry 11th, Daniel 12th, Dark Shadow 13th, and Jack Pearson, Darky and Stereogram all without a lap. So this is going to be interesting. Why is it showing me actual F1 drivers? It's bizarre. Yeah. By the way, Wet Lemons has just said he's terrified of this track, and he's gone and taken pole position. So, very good stuff from him. As there's the rain. It is stormy here in Monaco. Will there be flooding from the boats? The swimming pool section might not be called the swimming pool section because there will be no swimming pool. It will be a flood instead. I guess we'll see though. So yeah, we wait for the drivers to pick their strategies. And yeah, so we sit here, we'll wait for the rain to pour. Will it stop pouring though? That is the question. We'll find out who's going to win this race. Let your predictions flow into the chat. I am very much intrigued. Just going to find the stream on my phone. But here we go, the 5 red lights. It's lights out. And away we go. Who gets the better launch between Wet Lemons and CJ? There's already a yellow flag behind. But it is... Oh, CJ as he slides into turn 1. How has he kept that afloat? I don't know. They're all sliding around up the hill. Wet Lemons, though, leads us into turn 1. CJ, miraculously, in P2. They are sliding everywhere. Lewis Craig in P3. Jess in 4th. Chris Johnson 5th. As Wet Lemons has gone off, he's in the middle of the track. That is a dangerous spot, and that is a pile up. This could, I don't know if red flags are on, but this could be a red flag. That is a humongous crash, and that is multiple races ruined just by one mistake from Wet Lemons. He has taken half the grid out of their front wings, and that is a shame from what was a really good start. Has gone into tears for Wet Lemons as they will fight for our front wing. But CJ, 1.6 seconds into the lead. It has been a magical start from CJ. How he even managed to save that into turn 1 is that was incredible. These guys on, they're not on inters. I thought maybe a few of them bristled for inters, but no, the grip is just that low. Anyway, as Wet Lemon's 3-second time penalty for corner cut in, I think that might be his race ruined. But CJ into the lead, 1.4 seconds. That gap's slowly but surely cutting down from Lewis. As you're going to see Deck Maybe eyeing up a move on Chris Johnson? No. Oh, little tap. Nothing going for it though. As look at all these cars coming into the pit lane. It's tragic for half the grid. There's 16 cars in this race. It looks like 7 of the drivers in this race got affected by that crash. Which puts Stereogram up into P10, but will Dan Morris be able to jump him into turn 1? He does, as Stereogram slides into turn 1. Meanwhile, let's keep an eye out. Jake Warrior having to get a front wing as Darky 10-second time penalty. I presume he's gone over the pit lane line, and unfortunately it's given him a 10-second penalty. That's unfortunate. Please don't lose your head, Darky. We like you to stay in this race. Anyway, this could be a dramatic race. This could be a very boring race because no one can make overtakes. Tell you what, CJ is drifting that car through every corner. He is getting every ounce of grip out of those rear tyres. But I tell you what, he needs to be careful. He does not want to burn those tyres too much if he goes and sets the fastest lap. But yeah, I can't get like over the fact he managed to save that into turn 1. I honestly thought he was sliding into the barrier or even into wet lemons, as yeah, grip really low currently on the circuit at the moment. As we watch Jack Craig catching up to Deck. Does Deck have front wing damage? Did he decide to stay out? As there is a yellow flag. It is... Who is it? It is Darky? No, it's Stereogram, who has, I think, gone into the barrier. As he's driving very, very slowly. Darky's out of the race. He's in the pit lane. No comment there. So yeah, at the moment, the fight is for P1, 1.7 seconds. Currently. So, oh, Ryan Berry, 10-second time penalty for crossing the pit lane line. It says the white line, it's actually yellow, believe it or not. So, good one, Codemasters. Anyways, as these guys all struggling for grip, everyone is. As hoping his car is getting in the way. This is why we don't retire on the circuit. Lewis, fastest lap of the race now. Are these guys going to catch up to the McLaren? And more importantly, is he going to ghost? I'm going to hope he ghosts, or even despawn would be preferable. Here he goes. It's in the circuit. Oh, that's getting in the way. And that has cut down the gap. Well, did cut down the gap, unfortunately. Well, so unfortunately. The gap has kind of stabilised again, but yeah, that's not what you want to see. An AI car just getting in the way. Meanwhile, there is a fight going on for P5 between Chris Johnson and Deck. Deck has indeed opened the gap. As there's another yellow flag. Stereogram, I think, into a barrier again. Wet Lemons in for another front wing. So it's Mercedes really struggling out there. Dan Morris gets past Dark Shadow, and that is Lewis Craig. 3-second time penalty. You do not want to be getting them too early on, and unfortunately for Lewis, it is a 3-second time penalty. Is this rain meant to stop? Does anyone know? Obviously, I don't have the weather forecast with me, as Jack Craig 3-second time penalty. So ooh, that's close to the wall there, CJ. That's what you're meant to do around Monaco. You're meant to get up and close to the barriers, and that is what these drivers are doing. As Lewis, oh, who was that? Was that Wet Lemons, who has been lapped? He got pole. He is now a lap down, and he is really struggling on the throttle. I presume that is a heavily dry setup, or he just doesn't know how to drive in the wet. Maybe both. I don't know. Deck, meanwhile, still on the back of Chris Johnson. There's another yellow flag. I'm going to presume that's Stereogram again as he stops on the circuit. That's quite dangerous. I believe ghosting's on, so he should just ghost out the way. He should ghost out the way. He's not ghosting out the way, so I presume ghosting... I don't even know. Let's not focus on him, let's focus on the fight for P4. Or even P6, as Bazza has caught up to Jack Craig. The issue of the circuit, everyone says it, it's just impossible to overtake, isn't it? It's Daniel, 3-second time penalty for corner cutting once again. That's another driver with 3-second time penalties for corner cutting. Meanwhile, the gap between the leaders, 2.2 seconds between these guys. So that's good to know for CJ, at least, who already, you know, he's already got that 3-second advantage. That's turned into 5, pretty much. Oh, we got a move. Jack Pearson on Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow seems to be moving out of the way, and that's because he's got front wing damage. Meanwhile, Chris Johnson has been passed by Deck for P4. That looked like it was up the hill. Really impressive move, if that is the case. It's really hard to capture overtakes when the gaps are so big and then they just randomly happen. Keep an eye on this fight then, between Jack and Bazza, who I believe, are they both catching? Oh, that was a really poor exit from Jack, and I tell you what, Bazza is getting a bit impatient here. He needs to be patient, but he needs to make sure he can get a move on here, because he's losing time by staying behind him, and Jack has had the better exit, so it looks like he's going to have to stay behind another lap. I'm not even going to point out that yellow flag. Doesn't mean anything, because that front wing damage I saw there. Thought I saw front wing on the circuit, but I don't think it is. CJ, another fastest lap, but then Lewis goes and takes that straight off him. Is the track starting to dry up, potentially? I don't know. When the lap times go quicker, it normally means the track's slowly but surely improving and could go to intermediates. And I tell you what, goes to intermediates, we might still have a race on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, Chris Johnson staying in P5. He's lost time to Deck, but then isn't losing too much time to Jack Craig. So it's kind of now just no one's near each other. There's literally everyone's separated by at least a second, which is absolutely phenomenal. White Lemons, 1.7 seconds behind Jake Warrior. Could that be an overtake? I guess we'll see. Yellow flag again. Bazza, he can definitely get Jack Craig. I think the issue is Bazza is on wheel, Jack is on pad. So Jack struggles through the hairpin, but then gets like ridiculously good exits, which keeps him ahead. And if I'm Bazza, I'm getting heavily frustrated, as we've got 2 pit stops of Dark Shadow and Ryan Berry. Let's look at the pit stops. 2 pit stops. Okay, these guys are going fastest laps again here. Could we see the intermediates? In fact, there is intermediates. Ryan Berry on the intermediate tyres as Stereo ram into the barrier again. Intermediates for Ryan Berry. Is it too early, or has he got himself a strategic masterclass? Tell you what though, he is a lap down, which doesn't help, especially to his teammate. That is a bit embarrassing, as Jack Pearson has gone off into the wall and out of the race. Jack Pearson out of the race from P9. Decent finish that would have been, but unfortunately not anymore. How is Ryan Berry doing on those intermediate tyres? Tell you what, everyone on the grid is keeping an eye out on this. What does the cap do? Does it catch or does it lose? At the moment, it's not doing anything. At the moment, he's losing time. Is he losing time? He's gaining time, I think, from Wet Lemons, but he's getting held up by Jake Warrior, so... I mean, is Ryan really someone we could be judging? I don't know. Daniel's into pits for intermediates. Are we seeing the intermediates come out? Is Jeffrey saying to them, intermediates? I guess we'll see. Ryan Berry has lost time now. And it is intermediates for Daniel. So he's the next one to try the intermediates. Now, if you're the leaders, what do you do here? Because you'd rather hang it out until everyone behind you are on the intermediates, or you risk it, throw a biscuit, and you see what happens. Meanwhile, Deck all over the back of Jess. So finally, a battle we could see kicking off here as Deck. I can't remember, I don't know if he got clipped in that crash with Wet Lemons, but I tell you what, if he did, he is still driving a really good race. He's going to send it down the inside of Jess. Has he made it stick? He has made it stick. He's kind of squeezed Jess into the barrier, but I tell you what, that's a fantastic move from Deck. And how they didn't both end up in the barrier, I don't know, but that is brilliant. Brilliant move there from Deck. Apologies, I had that thing on. That was brilliant. Meanwhile, Dark Shadow has lost 2 places as CJ into the pit lane. Lewis stays out. So I presume this will be a pit stop onto the intermediates. There is another yellow flag, but I think that is just the back markers getting out of the way. Deck, to be fair, CJ's got this. Like, there's no cars ahead of him or behind. Well, I mean, there's cars behind him, but they're lap cars. And he jumps them. So it is looking good for CJ. Meanwhile, let's fight for P10. Oh, that's a good move there from Wet Lemons as well. What a move from Wet Lemons. He might be spinning every lap, but he's you know, making some solid moves out there. It's been solid moves all race. Wet Lemons 56 seconds off Dan Morris, mind you. But by the way, forgot to point it out, Jess into the intermediate tyres now. What we need to do, keep an eye out on this gap between CJ and Lewis. Is Lewis maybe trying to stick it out on the wets till the rest of the race? People will do that, and sometimes it works. Will it work for Lewis though? I guess we'll find out. He's got the 3-second time penalty though, so if the gap closes too much, it could be race over. He is losing a lot of time. It's definitely intermediate tyres, and he does indeed hit. And I tell you what, I think this could be the race for the win over. Which, by the way, huge for the championship. So who is on wets? Deck is, Chris is, Jack Craig is, Bazza, Wet Lemons, Jake, and Stereogram. So, ooh, quite a good save. So we've still got a fair few drivers who are on the wets, which is good for them, I guess, as Chris Johnson in the pits, and Bazza follows as well. Jake also coming out the pit lane in P11 as Ryan Berry into the pit lane for, I think this is the 3rd time? 4th time, I think that would be. I don't know how it's counted. Who was that? Someone was off. I swear I saw someone like in the barrier. No? I'm going crazy. 4.9 seconds the gap, 5 seconds now the gap between Lewis and CJ. I'll tell you what, I think, yeah, unless CJ makes a massive mistake, which we've seen, he can be accident prone at times, can still win this race though, and I think he will potentially win this race, as long as commentators curse. Doesn't hit, which we don't want. I don't want to curse anyone, because that's how you make enemies. So yeah, Lewis second. Who is on the intermediate? So Jess now needs to catch Deck and Jack up if she wants the podium, which she should easily do. She's on the intermediates. But I'll tell you what, if I'm Deck, this isn't that bad of a strat to stay out. You've got pretty much a 30-second gap to, I'd say, Chris and him. I don't think this is a bad shout. This is a risk I can see paying off. I don't know if it's meant to dry up to dries. If it does, then maybe a bit too risky. But I don't know. We'll see. Meanwhile, Bazza on the back of Chris. Bazza's had some mega pace tonight, which is good for him. There's more yellow flags. Oh, that's a crash! Oh, I don't know if Badzer got front wing damage there, but he definitely had a spin. That was a very, very risky move he tried there. But then again, you have to make risky moves around here. He has front wing damage on the front left end plate, which you don't want to have around Monaco. Luckily on this game, damage isn't the end of the world, but I'm sure that probably will still hurt. Meanwhile, CJ, 8-second gap between him and Lewis. This has been a brilliant drive from CJ. As Jake Warrior 3-second time penalty. Who's lapped? Is no one lapped? I thought everyone, like a fair few, got lapped. Maybe not. So it must be lapped. Oh well, whatever. Game's just broken as always. Yeah, because there's a Mercedes there. Sick. So yeah, Bazza. Let's see what he can do. Can he get past Chris? He also needs to make that gap. To, I think it's 3 seconds. Is it 3 seconds? It's 3 seconds. So you'd have to get a 3-second gap to keep that 6th place. There's another yellow flag. You can guess who that is. Stereogram, not enjoying the wet weather around here. As the Mercedes gets out of the way. That is Kaya. Yeah, it is all going flowing for CJ, who has really, he's really good in the wet. I've raced him obviously in TGP1. I've raced him in other leagues, and he's really good in the wet, and this is showing it. And he's also showing why he's fighting for the title. So, yeah, I'm sure he will be thrilled to be keeping this up. He just needs to stay away from penalties, keep it clean, and he will have it. Meanwhile, Bazza is falling back from Chris ever so slightly. Stereograms in. That must be like a record amount of pit stops. It says 1 stop. Surely that's not true. Yeah, 4 stops, 3 stops. Yeah, that says a lot about Stereogram's race, unfortunately. Best gained places, Jack Craig, 6 places gained, and I tell you what, I'm starting to think Jess might not be able to catch him, in which case, Jack Craig, for the result of the season so far, for his season, 4th place would not be too shabby. Like I said, I think Dex really mastered this strategy. He's made it stick. If he pits now, completely against it, just stay out, you might as well. Lewis Craig, meanwhile, fastest lap of the race. 5 laps to go. Could he gain a 12-second gap? Seen stranger stuff happen. Right now, though, there is absolutely nothing really going on. The gaps are all very separated, and this is the issue with Monaco. It's just nowhere to overtake. The dirty air is quite tragic. It's all wet as well. Yeah, it's not great. Dan Morris, by the way, he's catching up to Bazza. Bazza with the front wing damage. I think Dan Morris might have slightly better tyres. No, he doesn't. Tell you what, Wet Lemons, he's on the wet still. I don't know what he's doing at this point. There's Bazza into the barrier. What has happened to Bazza? We take our eye off him for 1 minute, and he's in the barrier. That is Bazza into the barrier then, which means Dan Morris into P7. I wonder if there was a crash between the two of them. I don't know, but Bazza now. Slow crawl to the pit lane again. I tell you what, it's going to hurt that he's going to lose P7, but he can pit. Still got a 20-second gap to Wet Lemons, so at the end of the day, I guess pitting isn't going to hurt him too much, and you might as well, especially now Wet Lemons has pitted. To intermediates, he finally decides to give them a go. But yeah, Baza probably not too impressed with that. And now the closest battle is for 6th, which is 2.5 second gap. Damn. And Wet Lemons goes nowhere near anyone. So, yeah, these gaps are crazy. Especially when you're getting 10 seconds for crossing the exit line for the second time this race. That's a 3-second time penalty. He's surely got a pit. He's got more front wing damage, I'm pretty sure. That looks worse than what he had before. So, surely you pit if you're Bazza. You do. You've got nothing to lose at this point. Unless these guys crash, now that'll be interesting. Dan Morris and Chris to P6. These gaps, by the way, the top 4 separated by, I think that's 30 seconds. 41 seconds! Oh, that's outrageous. Yeah, Monaco for you. Especially when you've got a rapid CJH who is just mastering this. You might as well call Monaco his home. Can Jeff catch up to Jack Craig? This is something which will be a discussion. We've got 3 laps to go. Those wets are surely starting to overheat. Those inters are going to start kicking in shortly. It's all to play for here. But if Jack just keeps it on the circuit, keeps his tyres cool, he's got himself a P4. How many penalties does he have? 3 seconds. Okay, actually, this is closer now. Clicked on. There's only a 3-second gap between the two, when you think about it. Okay, interesting. Ryan Berry gets past Dark Shadow for P12. I didn't think we'd see Ryan Berry make a move. Ooh, that's out of... How is Kaya saving this? I haven't seen this side of Kaya. I've never seen him save slides, but we are here in Monaco. And at the moment, 13th place. I'm sure we won't complain too much. It's finished now. Can't complain about that. Meanwhile, Dan Morris, he is right on the back of Chris Johnson. But again, obviously, he can make the overtake, but the penalties will stop him. CJ, he might be 12 seconds in the lead, but that doesn't stop him. He's still going to set the fastest lap of the race. Of course he is, why not? He's like Max Verstappen. Like, he's got such a gap, you might as well just push for the fastest lap, why not? I mean, I guess the point here is McLaren of Jake Warrior, who has gone off, and oh, that's the Red Bull as well. That is Jess, who has surely have lost a lot of time from, I think she must have been avoiding the, she hasn't actually lost that much time, huh? She was avoiding McLaren as, oh no, now Chris Johnson's getting held up. Oh, he's getting right in the way as Jake. I know he doesn't mean it, but yeah, I swear Jess cut that corner. Am I going crazy? She's not lost any time. Maybe it was camera angle. Anyways, back to this fight for P6, which is now closing up more because of Jake's off-in. Who's going to get it on circuit? As that is a yellow flag from Mercedes. I don't think it's anything severe. But yeah, fight for P6. Who's going to get it? Tell me in the chat if you're not driving. I'm going to say Dan Morris can get it on circuit, but unless they crash, Chris surely can't lose it. I tell you what, Jess, has she got front wing damage? She doesn't. She's lost a lot of time to Chris over the last few laps. I tell you what, this battle for 4th, I've just clicked on 4.5 second gap. Jess needs to get a move on here. Got 1 lap to gain, a second and a half. But then Chris also has to worry about Dan. So I don't see Jess being under threat by Chris unless she gets a 3-second time penalty, in which case it could be worse than 5th, could be 7th. Oh no, 6th. She just needs to try and push. Anyways, CJ, 19, he's going into the final lap soon. He's miles ahead of everyone. It's crazy, I think. Top 4, the gap is just crazy, and then you've just got these guys fighting for the midfield, and so gaps are still quite large. Did they touch? It looked like Dan's hitbox got hit and Chris slid, but I didn't look like, okay, didn't look like a hit. But anyways, CJ starts lap 20 in this race. It has been a brilliant drive. No one can deny it, as there's a yellow flag, wet lemons, and Kaya potentially flashing? Don't know. I guess we'll see. Meanwhile, let's fight for P6. This is the most entertainment we're going to have. Is gaps. Meanwhile, just 2.9 seconds between her and Jack Craig. 3 seconds on the dot. Who is going to get this? Keeping an eye on CJ here. Who's going to get this? 2.8 now. Jess might have this in control. I guess we'll see. Wet Lemons gets past Daniel. Oh, that looked like a hit in the wall. Not too sure. But anyways, we're going to cut to CJH, our leader. We've cut to him a few times, just to, you know, keep an eye on him. But apart from that, there's nothing to really say. He's just dominated this race. He had this slide into lap 1. He's gotten a 3-second time penalty because he can. But it's been brilliant from CJ. And this is going to be one of his best wins. He's done it around Monaco. And he's done it in the wet. And he's had a 13-second gap. CJ, he weaves himself across the line. CJ is the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix in TGP2. He closes the gap to Lewis in the championship. Lewis will finish in P2. And I'm sure he'll take it. It's points lost, but he'll take it. Meanwhile, I was going to say we've cut to the fight for P6, but that gap ever so slightly closing. Meanwhile, we've got Jack and Jess. Jack has lost a lot of time. It looks like the track may be drying up a bit too soon for Jack, which is unfortunate for him, but anything can happen. It's TGP2. Meanwhile, Deck is going to come across the final corner. He is going to make it P3 here in Monaco. I'm sure he won't complain about this. And then the fight for the final spot. By the looks of it, Jess is going to get P4. But I tell you what, Jack has driven a very good race for him to get what will be P5. But that is your race order. It is CJ who is your race winner. Again, like I said, probably his best win that he's gotten ever, maybe? I don't know. But nevertheless, really good drive from the Hassman, who again closes that gap down and will go into Azerbaijan having that confidence boost. Yeah, great drive. I think he will be very happy with that. And yes, he comes out on the podium. He looks happy. I don't blame him. I'd be happy too. Yeah. He takes that Monaco trophy. I think everyone wants one of those trophies in their bedroom. And he has that in his virtual bedroom. As he sprays the champagne at his engineer, he thanks him, but in theory, his engineer did nothing. It was all CJ. It was the man in between the cockpit and the seat who deserves that win. So, CJH is your race winner. From Lewis Craig, from Deck, from Jess, from Chris Johnson, from Jack, who by the way moves down to 6th. I thought he got 5th, but he got 6th. Dan Morris, P7th. Bazza, 8th. Daniel, 9th. Wet Lemons, 10th, despite having that massive crash. Ryan Berry, 11th. Jake Warrior, 12th. Dark Shadow, 13th. Stereogram, Jack Pearson, and Darky were out of the race. So, that was an interesting race. Hopefully Azerbaijan will have a bit more action, as in it will have more action racing wise. It had action, Monaco, but yeah, like, we're gonna mute everyone so then it doesn't matter what happens. So wait for everyone to join back in. We move it to a sprint, not sprint quali, a one-shot qualifying. And yeah, CJ's whining about ghosting being off. I mean, if it was real life, it is what it is, isn't it? But league racing, I guess, it's different, especially when no one's actually a professional driver. But then it's TGP2. You could class these guys as professionals. Some of them have been racing in TGP for years. When I was 5, I think the league started 2011. No, I've been 6. So, yeah, we wait for everyone to do their the settings. Apparently I'm causing buffering to YouTube, but I'm not getting that through my my phone. So I'm just gonna check the settings as the lobby's been updated. Let's check simulation settings. Ghosting is off for grieving. Is enabled. That makes no sense. Is it grieving's on or off? I don't know. I think the game's just a bit rubbish. Could have said that. Yeah, it's already out. CJ is your race winner. I don't think CJ has done a single thing wrong throughout that whole race. I mean, what could he have done? He took the lead, unless he took out Wet Lemons, which I don't think he did. Faultless. I don't think he made a single mistake apart from that final corner. But that wasn't a mistake. I would have done the same. Anyways, we wait for the drivers to ready up. Lewis is readied up, which normally means that we all ready up. Have a sip of a drink. As I says, ready up, which means everyone readies up, and we go. Qualifying. I'll get the track map up onto my phone so that I know where everyone's going. We're going to watch on board with CJ, which I think is fair enough, especially after that incredible qualifying. I think it's only fair we do that. Well, Lemon says he just needs one pole to get into the all-time top 10, then he'll happily retire. Fair enough. He doesn't care about the races, he just wants that top 10. Fair enough. Yeah, so we load into the game, and maybe it'll be dry this time. Maybe. Because the DRS will be quite helpful for the racing, because if it's wet, I can't see the racing being that good. So hopefully we'll get a dry race. I think all the drivers would rather it be wet, dry, apart from CJ, who again always stands out in the wet. So yeah, CJ's just sent that. I think he's sent that mistake into turn 1. There's got to be. Watch it. I think he's. Yeah, he sent it in. Here we go. What does he do? Burn ERS at the start? That's an interesting one. In the wet as well. Interesting tactics. But you won the race, so I can't judge. Anyway, into qualifying, what is it going to be? It is dry into qualifying at least. So that's a start. I'd rather a wet quali and a dry race than a dry quali and a wet race. I like wet races driving, but anyway, so we're going to find CJ and we're going to watch on board with him. And hopefully it'll be a good clean lap. Here we go then. CJ. There he is. Spectate on board with CJH into turn 1. Clip the apex on the inside. And then get on the throttle nice and early. Into turn 2. Clip the apex really nicely on the inside again. Open the DRS. And then burn your ERS as you go down the long straight. Into turn 3. Again, get very close to the inside wall. Run it wide into turn 4. Put the apex on the inside. Be careful with that inside curb. It will spit you out and you can go back flying into the barrier. Into turn 5 and then into turn 6, run that curb a little bit. CJ's done that very neatly. At the moment though, it's not quickest. Into turn 7, do not cut this corner too much or you will invalidate. And then castle section. Charles Leclerc, he hit that wall. CJ, his idol, he isn't going to make that mistake though. He does have a little bit of a slide there, but tell you what, it's all good so far. As he goes into the small little kinks, turn 13. And then 14, and then hard braking into turn 15. You don't want to hit the curb too much on the inside. Neatly done by CJH. And then you go through turn 16. Some will say this is the final corner. I don't. Round that curb a bit too much there. Into turn 18. And then 19. And then turn 20. Get the best exit you can out to turn 16. And it pretty much makes or breaks your lap. Opens the DRS in a minute. There he goes. And across the line, it is Darky who is going to be on pole position by a tenth. So, Darky, this is your one time to not retire on the circuit. If you crash, just carry on. Please, I beg, if you're listening to this, just carry on and get that result. Even if you crash, just carry on. But hopefully you'll win. Well, not. No, that sounds really biased. Hopefully you'll get a good result. Anyways, it's your top 3. Darky from pole position from Lewis Craig. Big gap between the two of them, and CJ in 3rd. Bazza in P4 with Deck P5. Daniel in P6. Ryan Berry P7. Christensen 8th. Jake Warrior 9th. Jess down in 10th. That's not a great qualifying for her. Jack Craig 11th. Dan Morris 12th. Stereogram 13th. And Dark Shadow, Wet Lemons, and Jack Pearson. Ooh, not setting a lap. So, interesting qualifying. CJ, fair bit off the top 2. Lewis looking very good. Very good race pace wise. And yeah, we wait for the drivers to get us going. They choose what tyres they're going to be on and whatnots. I believe we're going to get Canada very, very quickly. It is the 35% race here in Azerbaijan, and it's dry. Woohoo! So, wait for the drivers. Alright, guys, not all, got all day, but we do have all night. Yeah, wait for the drivers. There's no crowd to mock either, unfortunately. It's all just a pit crew, which isn't entertaining in the slightest. Here we go then. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Red lights for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It lights out and away we go. Who gets the better start? They both get wheel spin here, and there's already a crash. It's CJ, and who's that? Who's with CJ? I think it might be Wet Lemon. But so far it's Darky from Lewis Craig. Darky's hit the barrier, and Lewis Craig is going to take the lead of the race. From Darky, from Deck, from Daniel, who's up into P4. Great start from Daniel. Ryan Berry up to P5, and then there's a bit of a drop. Chris Johnson in P6, Jack Craig P7, Jess in 8th. But CJ has had a crash, and I think it was with Jack Pearson. He is down into 10th, and that is not what you want to see. Who was that? Wet Lemons? A bit of lag going on, I think, there. But Lewis Craig is your leader in this race. There's more fighting going on behind. Maybe not. I thought we saw a move. Oh, is that Ferrari going to go down the inside of Bazza? He is, and he's whacked his front wing. It's not the cleanest move from Jack. He's got front wing damage now. But yeah, so far, it's Lewis from Darky. And then there's a gap. Daniel up to P4 and Ryan Berry into P5, but I'm sure Chris Johnson is not going to let that happen too much. Ooh, Dark Shadow couldn't have whacked that any harder, but here we go on to the long straight. This is where moves happen. This is where dreams are made of. Remember Lance Stroll, he got a podium here. Lost P2 though on the final lap, on the final straight. But here goes Darky. Can he make a move on Lewis this lap? He's burning everything, but I don't think it's going to be enough. But what is enough is Daniel, who is going to go around the outside of Deck. Deck breaks later though, and Deck defends it. But I tell you what, Daniel's going to try and send out the inside again. He sends it. Is there contact? Oh, there's contact, and that's another crash. And that, Daniel has gotten away with it. But someone who hasn't got away with it, unfortunately, is Deck. And that is a VSC, and that is a lot of cars everywhere. A lot of cars with front wing damage. And unfortunately has ended with consequences for Deck. And I tell you what, Daniel might end up with a penalty for that incident, but I guess we'll see. I don't think he got any damage from that. Actually, he did. So this is a very mixed up order. Lewis Craig from Darky, from Daniel, from Chris Johnson, from Jack Craig, from Jess, from Dan Morris, CJ down in 8th, Brian Berry 9th, Deck in 10th, Dark Shadow 11th, Jack Pearson 12th, Wet Lemons 13th, Bazza 14th, Jake Warrior 15th, and Stereo Ground in 16th place. So we wait for the race to restart. I believe it's a VSC and not a... Oh, they're slamming on the brakes. That normally means a screen flag racing any minute now. Is it going to happen? Apparently not. Yeah, no safety car. You can normally see on the dot. As Dark Shadow drive-through penalty, that is his... Well, his race ruined, but he's going to have to take a drive-through penalty. If he doesn't, he gets disqualified. Lewis, though, good restart from him. 1.1 seconds between him and Darky. Darky will have to sit back for now, but here's the fight for P3. Will Chris Johnson make any moves on Daniel? Tell you who is here. Jack Craig. He's putting a bit of pressure on Chris Johnson here. There's a few pit stops of Ryan Berry and Deck, both of them in the pits, double stacking. So far, though, no moves being made, but onto the straight, will Chris Johnson be able to make a move on Daniel? Little bit of a DRS train here. I can't complain. I wanted it wanted DRS to be on. No moves being made on the straight, but Wet Lemons passed his teammate Dark Shadow into P9. I'm surprised we didn't see CJ pit. I'm going to be totally honest. He's missing near enough half a front wing. I'm surprised he's actually carrying on. He is starting on mediums though, so I guess you have to counter that in. But I think everyone's on mediums. But yeah, so far Lewis from Darky, and then we've got a nice bit of a DRS train here. Daniel, Chris Johnson, Jack Craig, Jess, Damaris, and CJ, Wet Lemons, and Dark Shadow, Jack Pearson. And then there's a bit of a gap out of the DRS. We got the bad exit there. I don't know. Chris Johnson though, putting pressure on Daniel. Daniel, we know, he can get these good results, and he can drive really well. But how well can he drive around the streets of Baku? This looks like this should be a really simple move here from Chris as they open the DRS in a minute. In fact, I don't think he's even going to need DRS. He's got the slipstream. He's got the DRS now. He's burning a bit. He has actually ran out of DRS by the looks of it. Is he going to send it down the inside, or is he going to sit behind? He sits behind. But Evans fastest lap of the race meanwhile. I'm surprised he's not making moves. I thought he'd make the move, but I'm presuming he's going to maybe sit for the straight. Let's see, DRS open. He's catching. He's saving. I'm surprised. Chris isn't making a move, but I tell you who is making a move. Jack Pearson. And Wet Lemons as well, making a move on CJ. Is CJ going to fight it? He can't really, not the front wing damage. I believe it was these two who crashed. It could have been Wet Lemons. Wet Lemons was right at the back now. I don't know who it was. I guess we'll find out when CJ inevitably cries. That is a joke, CJ, please. Anyway, yeah. Daniel, still in P3. and is doing okay. I don't know what's going on here. I tell you what, Chris pulled away from Jack Craig. They're both pulling away from Jack Craig, which, if you're Daniel, even though you might not be able to get P3, it's nice to have that little cushion, knowing that, you know, you're quicker than Jack Craig and P4's at least still on. But as we watch on board with a helicopter cam, love a camera like this. Is Chris anywhere near to make a move? Let's find out. He's catching, so I think he must be burning. Where's the DRS line? It's there. No, it's there. I thought there's... didn't realise there was two lines. It looks like no move though for now. Meanwhile, Dan Morris making a move not only on Jess but also on Jack Craig. That is a brilliant move from the Alpine driver. 2 in 1. Great move from Dan Morris. And he moves himself up to P5. Will Jack try to fight his teammate though? He definitely is looking towards it. Dan Morris saving his ERS, and it looks like Jack Craig back up the inside of his teammate. And up into P5 again. The Alpines having a little bit of a squabble here. We know what happens when an Alpine squabble doesn't normally end right, but this is TGP2, not real F1, therefore this could be... Oh, that's very slightly from Jack Craig. Is Dan Morris going to maybe have a sniff to move up the inside? No, he doesn't. He sits behind. He knows he's his teammate. He has to play smart, especially around a street circuit. The more these guys fight, the more time they're losing to the podium, though. 3 seconds now. It was 1.5 before lap 5. These guys are holding each other up quite massively here. Jack Craig, all under pressure from his teammate. The only issue is if you're Jack Craig, you've got a lot of cars right behind you here. It's not just going to be Dan Morris who's going to overtake you. It could be Jess, it could be Wet Lemons. Could be all of them. Wet Lemons meanwhile runs very wide there. Yellow flag, I think that's Stereogram. He's not having the best race of his life. And that is a mistake from Jack Craig, in which should be quite an easy move from Dan Morris. And I think potentially even Jess. Yes, it is from Jess. As he actually pits. Okay, I didn't realise he started on softs. Okay, so he's going for the undercut. Which could be the right move, as Wet Lemons gets past Jess for P6. CJ Mueller, I did not click on. He has pitted on harder tyres. Now, with those guys fighting, where does CJ come out? Because he's had to change the front wing, but more importantly, these guys have lost a lot of time fighting. Still quite a bit off Jack. He's still got a lot to do in this race, but CJ, he pulls results, remember this. Meanwhile, Daniel and Chris are catching Darky here. Now Darky, I think, might have had front wing damage. Yes, he does have front wing damage. So he needs to be careful with that. But I don't know if it's worth replacing unless it really is affecting him. Which, in fairness, he is losing a lot of time. I tell you what, Lewis, it's been another dominant win here so far. Lewis 6 seconds down the road as Darky's ghosting, so that's not what you want to see. That normally means he's had a moment. He's having moments every corner. Maybe start thinking about pitting. Because at the moment, Daniel is going to have a really easy move into P2 as he's hit another wall here. This should be an easy move here from Daniel, as I presume Darky will pit this lap. He does pit this lap. So Daniel into P2, Chris Johnson into 3rd, as Darky then very slowly pulls into pit lane, for taking any chances of a penalty. But yeah, so far, I'll tell you what, Daniel's having a really good drive. It's just unfortunate that he had that crash with Deck. Oh, that's a whack from Bazza, and that's his whole front wing off, and that is a virtual safety car. That was a proper whack. I'll tell you what, that kind of probably annoys Starkey quite a bit, because he could have changed his front wing in that short time. But instead, he's now got to cow. He's gone into Discovered. You can't park there, sir. Especially under a VSC, it's very impressive. Anyway, so this helps if it stays out as long as it did last time. Helps the likes of Lewis, Daniel, Chris. It doesn't help the likes of CJ and Jack Craig, who've done their pit stops. But yeah, as okay, maybe not. It's kind of quite easy, early, as Darky has made an overtake on Ryan Berry as they're going side by side. A little bit of contact between the two of them. But Ryan Berry keeping the move, but oh, Darky is trying to send it around the outside. He's lost his head a bit here, but I'm hoping he's going to carry on. We hope he carries on. I think everyone wants him to carry on and just finish a race. That's all we want him to do. Meanwhile, he's had a really good run on Ryan Berry, actually. Oh, no. Safety cost deployed. That's a nasty crash. Oh, Deck, don't hit that tyre. Lewis has gone, he's missed the, oh, okay, he's fine. Okay, everyone pits then. Lewis will pit next lap because he didn't get caught by the safety car. Now, like I said, this does mess up the likes of Jack Craig and CJ, who now, I mean, it saves him kind of, CJ especially, where he was so far behind, but at the same time, he's not going to gain barely anything from the safety cars. Oh, Jack get Jess. Was that legal? Was that legal? Ooh. No, oxygen. Oh, we've got the glitch. One of these are getting 10 seconds. It's gonna be a real heartbreak if true. So yeah, Lewis is your race leader and will stay your race leader, presuming he has no front wing damage. That's a real shame about Darky and Ryan Berry. That was a really unnecessary crash there. He should have backed off, but he didn't. So, yeah. We will change the subject quite swiftly, unless it's needed to be brought up again. This gives Stereogram another chance to get back into this race because he was a lap down. Presuming he decides to stay out, will get unlapped. But I think this race needed a safety car. It was getting very chaotic out there. And Lewis, easy pit stop here. He's probably not the most happiest, mind you, because he had what, an 8-second gap, and that is now being reduced to 5/10. So that's what I thought he would do. Stay out. Lewis into the pits, comes out. He is on. Let's look at tyres. How we can actually do that. Believe it or not. Hards for the top 3. Dan Morris onto mediums. 10 laps in mediums. Interesting. Jack Craig on hards, Jess on hards, Brett Lemons on hards, Jack Pearson on softs, CJ on hards, Bazar and Dark Shadow also on softs with Jake Warrior, Deck, and Stereogram on medium. So very mixed up grid here. Dan Morris could be cooking, or he could be freezing. But at the moment, Lewis Craig, I think Lewis, he's in a really good situation. Not only just for this race, but for the championship now, especially now CJ had that crash. I'm going to watch that crash back. In fact, what I can do, get it up. I'll give you a little replay if we can. Because I can. Let's watch. So, oh, it's the two Hatters who crashed. Okay, give me a minute. I will get my screen up and we will go through a little. Did my audio picked up? It is. Oh, let's not play that. So this is the crash, which could potentially cost CJ his title fight. Go to 5 red lights, and you'll see on the Haas on the left side of your screen, loses the rear end, crashes into the other Haas. Both Haas's crash with each other, and that, unfortunately, Costs them both dear. So CJ won't be happy about that. I'm sure he won't be. But to be honest, it might have been CJ who made that mistake. I can't figure out who it is on the other side. I'll tell you what, if it's CJ, then I think it is. It is CJ. CJ loses the rear end and goes into his teammate Bazar. That's really quite bad. Unfortunately, both Hasses are going to lose a lot of points from this. What's more depressing as well is they're both together on circuit, so this will become entertainment. But yeah, as we wait for the race to get undergoing again, Deck into the pit lane for a set of soft tyres. Soft tyres, really? I know there's 8 laps to go, but that's very much of a push. And if the softs make it to the end and they stay pacey, these hard guys, we could see a Jack Pearson win. Just saying, 8 laps is a lot of laps to go. Bit of chaos with guys ahead. Could be Dan Morris's actually. I have a feeling Dan might be cooking here with the tyre selection. But I guess we'll see. I'm surprised no one has mentioned anything on the chat. I honestly thought we'd have CJ come in the chat and say, "Oh, what are you doing, Bazza?" Or Bazza going, "What are you doing, CJ?" Controversy. There was no controversy, which as a viewer is quite sad. But for them, obviously not. And it probably isn't for Jack Craig either, or Dom. Hi, Dom. Anyway, right, come on. Safety car, go. Come on. I'm bored. Here we go. He listened to me. Thank you, Bert Mylander. It's unfortunate for Stereogram, but yeah, he ruined a bit there. Anyways, that doesn't matter. We've got a race on our hands. It's a Red Bull versus a V-car versus a Ferrari against the 2 Alpines. Who is going to win tonight here in Baku? It is all in the air now. It looks to be safe for Lewis. But is it safe anymore? We'll find out in about 10 minutes time when these guys go across the line to finish the race. Lewis then taking us on the restart. He's weaving slowly. He's trying to figure out when he goes and when is the right time to leave the grid behind him. That is if he can. At the moment though, as there's overtaken going on behind us, quite slow, but Lewis, I thought went, he has now gone. And he has got himself a decent gap, 5/10, not amazing. Anyway, look down the order, any moves being made below? CJ had a little sniff of Jack Pearson, but nothing comes of it. Deck makes a move on Jake Warrior, but so far, Lewis keeps his lead as there is another yellow flag. That is Bazza out of the race. What has happened to the Haas man? Not another safety car. Is Stereogram? No, it's not going to get around in time for us to see what happened to Bazza. But bad day in the office for him. Meanwhile, 1.6 second gap for Lewis. He has pulled an incredible gap considering it's 1 lap. Meanwhile, Dan Morris, as Deck overtakes Kaya. Dan Morris then, he's wanting to get past these guys as soon as possible. He wants to make the most out of those medium tyres. And will hopefully, well, hopefully for him, be able to get past him. But I'm sure Daniel and Chris do not want to lose their podium. So they won't make it that easy. As Your watch on board as we go on to the start-finish straight for the first time. No DRS for this straight for the first lap, and then after that DRS will be enabled, and that is when overtakes will be made, and that is if Dan Morris doesn't try eyeing up a move on Chris Johnson. He is burning his ERS, he is using the slipstream, he moves to the left, and this should be an easy move here from Dan Morris. He makes the move into third place. The Alpine driver goes. Meanwhile, there's an overtake going on behind as Dark Shadow and Jake. Jake goes down the inside of Kaya. Cool, a little bit of contact between the two of them. But nothing bad happens. Jake Warrior gets past Kaya. Oh, a little bit of contact again there. But so far all clean and juicy and good. CJ meanwhile looking at Jack Pearson's rear end and thinking, where can I make an overtake? So it's Deck. Deck's really trying to get past CJ. Getting very impatient and is getting very close to his rear end, but keeping it clean so far. Meanwhile, that gap has actually shut down between Lewis and Daniel, 1.3 seconds. So maybe Lewis feeling the pressure a little bit. He's the Red Bull driver. But Dan Morris, he's looking really quick. As we've seen a crash here before. Come on, guys, let's not do this again. Wow. Okay, managed to keep it clean. There is a crash though. Wet lemons in the barrier, and that is a shame for him. But we go back to this fight for P2. As Kai is asking if he hits Bazza mid-race. You know, you're in a race car, you're not messaging people. Anyways, here goes. Dan Morris, the stereogram has crashed in the castle section. I think we ran out of safety cars. As here goes Dan Morris, moves to the left. He's done a replica of what he did to Chris Johnson into P2, and now he has a 2-second gap to catch to Lewis Craig. Meanwhile, Jack Pearson overtakes CJH. I think they're fighting quite aggressively here. CJH is going to go down the inside of Jack Pearson. Jack Pearson just about defends the inside line as we go on to the second DRS straight. And I tell you what, Deck is now eyeing up a move on CJ. Can he make a move here? Surely not. No, he sits behind for now. So, there's only 12 runners in this race after 16 started it. Somehow, I think more people finished Monaco. Crazy. Meanwhile, this gap staying around the same between Lewis and Dan. Dan needs to get a move on though. Meanwhile, Chris Johnson is all over the back of Daniel, but Daniel is going to want that podium. I'm hungry for that podium, and I'm not even driving. As they'll go through the castle section. There is a lot of fighting going on in this race, as Dan Morris is catching Lewis. Keep an eye on it. Meanwhile, Chris Johnson going to try and go around the outside of Daniel. Sits behind for now. They need to be careful. We saw what happened between Darky and Ryan. Let's not make another replica of it. Stereogram leaves the session. I thought I disconnected for a second there. Meanwhile, Chris Johnson should be, I said this before, an easy move for him to make. He's 3/10 behind. The thing is though, he's very hesitant to make an overtake on him. But it doesn't look like he's hesitating now. Here he goes. He moves to the left hand side. He puts his DRS on. He's saving his DRS, and this should be job done for the Ferrari driver. He goes down the inside, and it's not done. I don't know what's going on. He's really reluctant to overtake. I don't know if he's just scared or if he's just really not wanting to make the overtake. He's had so many opportunities. That was perfect. Just burn the ERS. He could be fighting for P2, but he's sat here, sitting behind Dan, and he's just kind of, yeah, he's not doing anything. It's not that meme where like he's like kicking the stick saying, "Go and do something." Okay. Meanwhile, Jess is fighting Jack Craig for P5. Again, Jack Craig having a really good race, really good evening from the Scotsman. Jess looking potentially a little sneaky move, but sits behind for now. As this is going to end in tears. Oh, Jack Pearson really defending of CJ, but it's not going to matter. Oh, they've crashed again as they're going side by side. I tell you what, Deck's going to want to have a sniff of this as well. CJ has got front wing damage. It's still fighting so aggressively here. Pearson going to try and outbrake CJ. This is surely going to end in tears. Jack Pearson decides better off and backs out. But another crash for CJ. Jack Pearson's really defending hard on CJ here. Now the issue is I think CJ got away with no damage, but Pearson definitely had damage. And he's going to fly right back. Meanwhile, Chris Johnson, has he made the move? He's not making the move. Why is he not making the move? Go on, outbreak him. Do it. Hit the move. There he goes. He's done it. Chris Johnson into P3. Meanwhile, Jack Pearson and CJ still fighting it out between the three of them. Deck obviously getting involved as well. Who is going to finish P7 at the moment is CJ, but Jack Pearson is going to want to say something about it. And I'll tell you what, I think Deck will be looking at it as well. Here goes Jack Pearson. Is he going to send it down the inside? No, he doesn't. He sits behind for now. Deck also looking at a potential P7. Starting to lighten up this race now that Chris has decided to finally move his backside. Wet Lemon's fastest lap of the race, however, that is fresh mediums and not really going to get anywhere apart from the fastest lap point. The gap between Lewis and Dan Morris, by the way, staying at a 2.2 second gap at this rate. The more Dan Morris's tyres wear, the more his chances of the win disappears. Meanwhile, Jack Pearson still managing to keep with CJ, which I find amusing. But he is catching Jack Craig, and I tell you what, this could be his lifeline to stay away from Jack Pearson, because he'll have that DRS and be able to get that car between them. That's if he makes most of it. But to be honest, I think Jack Pearson might have made a mistake. Oh, Lewis is disconnected. Lewis is disconnected, and I'm getting Spain vibes all over again. Oh, his car's pitting in the pits. Oh no. Invite. Do I have him on it? Oh, that's heartbreak again for Lewis. Dan Morris now your race leader. This moves Chris Johnson in P2 and Daniel into P3. It's like having an engine failure. Meanwhile, CJ looking on to the other Craig brother. He stays behind for now. I'm absolutely heartbroken for Lewis. Oh, it just gets worse and worse. That man just can't get a break right when it looks good. Something goes wrong for him. Oh. Anyways. Jeff's trying to push on for P4. And you know what this means? This means CJ, out of some miracle, is going to end up getting more points on Lewis. Man, I feel bad, man. That is outrageous from his wife. Bye. As Jack Pearson, 3-second time penalty. But Jack Craig, he will be trying to do I imagine he's going to try and do everything to stop his brother from losing as many points as possible. He's going to, I imagine, defend quite heavily. CJ gets a bit out of shape. But the issue is, with such a long straight, it is so easy to make a move, and I don't think Jack could really do much to halt CJ's progress. At the moment, this could be P5 for CJ, which would be a good comeback drive. Lewis rejoins the session. That's good to see that he has decided to rejoin and not just give up. That's the mentality we like to see. CJ, though, into P5. He is now chasing down Jessica Bull for P4. And I don't know how this has happened. CJ has had such a messy race, so many contacts with the likes of his teammate. He had it with Jack Pearson. He is now, apologies, fighting for P4 and could maybe even get himself a P3 if he makes it work. He is pushing and he is making every little bit of Lewis's downfall count. And I tell you what, Dan Morris, I know he's kind of been almost lucked in to that win as it stands, but you have to be in that position to get yourself into that position, and he has. At the moment, it is going to be a win for Dan Morris, but we're not jinxing him yet. We're not jinxing anyone. We jinxed Lewis. I don't even know if I did, but I said he had quite a comfortable gap, and now that comfortable gap's gone. It's also pitted him onto 9-lap-old mediums. What is this game? He's been really, really messed up there. Anyways, let's not worry about him for now. We'll worry about him after the race. CJH, here he goes, as Dan Morris starts lap 18. CJ eyeing up a move on Jess, and I tell you what, he's going to have DRS and ERS, I imagine. And he might be able to get into Daniel's DRS for the final straight. Can he pull off a podium by some miracle? Gap is 1.3 seconds. He makes that move on Jess into P4. 1.2 seconds is the gap. Deck, meanwhile, getting past Jack Craig. Jake gets past the other Jack. Pearson, Wet Lemons gets past Dark Shadow. As CJ's made a mistake. I've missed that completely, and Jess has gone past him. CJ's chances of P3 has now gone. It has. I don't think there is a way unless there's penalties. But we're going to focus on this man, Dan Morris, who has driven a really good race. And we're going to cut to this fight between the two Mercedes. Was a fight. Jack Craig also getting very close to Deck. Could he make a move? Definitely a possibility. But CJ, he might be able to get Jess on the line, but it won't be anything great. It won't be a podium. Dan Morris, though, he has driven brilliantly. To be honest, I don't even know where he started. When did he start? He started 11th place. He started 12th, and he is now going through almost a final corner. Chris Johnson, he has caught up to him, given him a few more laps, and Chris could have fought for the win. But it's not going to be the win for Chris. It is going to be the win for Dan Morris, as long as he gets through this straight. He's weaving, but it is going to be a win for Dan Morris, the second win of the season. Chris Johnson will take P2 after complaining he's never going to get a podium this season. He gets P2, Daniel gets P3. Jess at the last minute gets P4 taken away from her by CJ. Jack Craig gets P6 from Deck. Jake Warrior P8. Jack Pearson P9th. And Lewis Craig gets P9 in the end. But that is not what he wants for his title hopes. And Wet Lemons will finish in 11th place. It might not be a good result for him, but he got pole position. He had his moments. And then Dark Shadow will get P12. But it is Dan Morris who is your race winner, and this title fight gets even more twisted with Lewis's internet issues and CJ's crash issues. This has taken a turn for the worse for both title fight rivals, because I think Dan Morris might, and I say might, somehow be back into the title fight. As there goes Dan Morris celebrating at the top. Let's check the Dan Morris 43 points. He won tonight. I think he's in third. As people were complaining about CJ, but it's not about CJ. It's about Dan Morris, who sprays Chris and Daniel, who, by the way, P3, brilliant race from him. And, well, he celebrates with his engineer, who I couldn't name. I don't think he's actually part of Alpine. Got 30 seconds to go through the race order. Dan Morris wins from Chris Johnson, from Daniel, from CJ, from Jess, from Jack Craig, from Deck, from Jake Warrior, from Lewis Craig, from Jack Pearson, Wet Lemons, Dark Shadow, Stereogram, Bazar, Ryan Berry, and Darky. So, if I have to name a driver of the day, I think... it's difficult. It's between Chris and Daniel, to be honest. They've both driven really good races. I think with Daniel, he had that crash, otherwise it would be him. I think it has to go to Chris Johnson. I think he is my driver of the day
Then again, CJ, if he hasn't caused that crash, would be my driver of the day. But I think he was the one who caused that crash, therefore it's his loss. I'll go Chris Johnson, driver of the day. It's the safe option. But yeah, that is your race for TGP2 tonight on your Wednesday evening. Join us next week, which we will have not Australia. What am I about? Imola and Japan. Two of my strongest. Like they are two of my favorite tracks. Put them two together, and I'm having the time of my life. I should be racing. That would be, that would be brilliant for me. Both of them bring good racing. Imola, long straight, easy moves to be made. Not even just on the start finish straight, but also you got turn 5 and turn 6 where you can make some crazy dive bombs and make it work. And in Japan, 130R, you've got the start finish straight, you've got the hairpin. Two brilliant circuits, and I look forward to seeing that unfold. But another thing I'm looking forward to is seeing you guys hopefully next week. I hope you can join us. I've really enjoyed tonight. Been great fun commentating. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you all next week for Imola and Japan. Have a good rest of your night and safe travels.